Hey everybody, and welcome to our continuing education course with the Strength Studio. I am Melinda Breckheisen, and I'm here with my business partner, Philip Ramos, and we are going to be going over the strengths-based vision board, which is a little bit of a twist of perhaps what you have heard before. This is something you can utilize if it's time for you to redo your vision board, or if you are making one for the very first time. I do want to start with the understanding that this is our unique take on it, and that does not make it right or wrong. It is just a new way to think about it, and you might only think one of our 10 tips or whatever suits you, and that's great, right? Take the bits and pieces that resonate with you and incorporate them into your vision board and your understanding of what you want to create, because there is no right or wrong to this, right? We just want to give you a few extra things to think about and consider. So that's what we'll be going through. If you can go to the next slide real quick, Philip. Popped off. This is going to be fun, isn't it? So the next slide, as he gets it up, is just the agenda for the evening, just so you understand what we are going through. So first, we're going to look at manifesting, and then talk about capacity and well-being, creating followership, and then closing up with our non-negotiables and taking the fire test. And when you look at that, you may think, what on earth does any of that have to do with a vision board? Right, maybe manifesting, maybe 1 out of 5, but I promise it will all make sense. Again, this is the Gallup perspective, right? It's a strengths-based perspective, and we just want you to think a little bit differently about what you are putting on that board and how you are using it as a working tool in your business. So this is our agenda for the evening. Let's go ahead and get started with manifesting. So I want to tell you a little bit about my first experience with a vision board, and some of the interesting things that observations I have made since then. I was first introduced to the vision board back in 2013 at one of Andy Goddard's trainings. And at first, it honestly didn't make any sense to me at all. The idea of cutting pictures out of a magazine and putting it on a board, and then somehow it was going to happen to me, right? That didn't make a lot of sense, because I've always had this idea of um, I'm creating my life. It's based on my actions. It's based on what I do. So how is just creating a pretty picture going to actually be something tangible and real? But I was at this training and I wanted to fully participate in it. And, I was sitting there, I believe I was elite at the time, and I was at this training with a millionaire, right? And so, like, okay, I'm going to listen to the millionaire. And open up my mind and allow myself to grow and have this learning experience with this vision board. And so I was very obedient. I made the vision board and waited for something to happen, and nothing did, right? A year later, I was still the exact same person I was. And I thought, well, this is kind of what I expected, right? Like, there's my negative little attitude. I have positivity 33. Um, and so I made another vision board, and same thing happened, right? No improvement, no real movement in my business. I didn't quite understand, because other people were having these amazing experiences, right? Like, I remember this one guy saying he'd cut out a picture of a house that he just was his dream home, and then it actually went up for sale and he bought it. Right? Like, the actual house that he had cut out and put on his vision board now belongs to him, the same exact one. And I was really trying to think about, like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? How is this experience different for me? And the shift for me was when I thought about what manifesting means to me. I am intellection, analytical, input learner. I am all of these heavy thinking. I am not. I'm not very high empathy, not very high positivity, futuristic, belief, connectedness, like a lot of these other strengths that you would see as more intuitive and spiritual, are all kind of mid for me, right? Like, I am in my brain. And I think sometimes that's what we assume with the vision board, is that it's this almost spiritual experience. And I needed to create something that was more pragmatic. And so for me, manifesting, this is how I view it. It's bringing something into awareness so that when it presents itself to me, I am prepared to take action. So I'll give you a few examples of this. First example, I had this boyfriend in high school and I was so in love with him and we dated for 6 weeks and broke up. Like, I thought it was forever. It was 6 weeks. But he drove a green Ford Ranger, this green truck. And after we broke up, everywhere I went, I saw green trucks. I went to the grocery store, I saw a green truck. I went to the movie theater, I saw a green truck. I'm driving down the road. Everywhere, I like, why did everyone in the world have a Ford Ranger that was green? Right? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. But the truth of the matter is, there was not an increase in green trucks on the road. There was the same amount of green trucks before he broke my heart as after. But it was on my brain, right? It was something I was thinking about. It was something that was a focus of mine at that time. And so I saw it everywhere I went. Another example of this, I just remembered I was going online and I was looking at some fashion, right? And there was this style of dress, and I thought, ooh, I might like to try that, right? Like, something new. I'm going to try this new dress style. It's kind of pretty, kind of neat. And then the next week or two, I saw people wearing that style of dress everywhere I went. It just popped out at me. Everyone was wearing it. And it wasn't that because I saw it online, now the fashion trend has changed and I've changed the world and everyone is wearing what I like. It's that I am now aware of this and it's brought into my presence, right? So to me, that's what manifesting is. I am choosing, I am intentionally choosing what I want to be aware of, what I want my brain to notice and respond to. What is my focus? But then we have to follow that up with, if it is presented to me, I actually have to take action on it, right? Like, the dress keeps showing up. Am I going to wear the dress or am I not going to wear the dress? Am I going to buy it or not? Right? Like, it'll keep showing up. And then if I forget about the dress, I'm not going to notice it anymore, even though the same amount of people are still wearing it. Right? So manifesting to me is I am choosing my focus so that I see it in the world around me, so that I can choose to bring it into my world and incorporate it into my life and be successful with it. Right? So when I'm thinking about this vision board, I am now not thinking about, what do I hope for my future? What are my dreams? What are these lofty things, these big houses or whatever it is? But what do I want my focus to be for the next 12 months? What do I want my brain to notice? What are my priorities? What am I going to put on there so that I'm not distracted by all the other little sparklies in the world, but this is my vision, right? I'm putting it on this board. This is where I'm aiming for. So then when it comes to me, I can respond and say, thank you for making me aware of this. I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to take it. So fantastic. Yes. Next slide. Right. We are on it, Philip. Like, you just read my brain. All right. Turning it over to Philip now. Philip is a Gallup certified strengths coach, just like I am. He's my business partner. He focuses on engagement and retention, especially in corporate training. And the first time I heard him talk about capacity, I was like, oh my goodness, everyone needs to hear this, like, monthly. So I will turn over the time to Philip to talk to you the next thing I think we should have on our vision board.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm sure some of you guys have heard me talk about this. This is definitely a topic that's near and dear, and it's definitely something that I see each and every day. Like Melinda said, coming from the corporate environment, we see so much of this on a day-to-day basis. There's two different things that people identify, right? When they look at, they might confuse the word capacity with capabilities. Our capabilities is our skills, it's our knowledge, it's the things that we do, it's the experience we've created. Our capacity is really our ability, right? Our capacity, when we think of our capacity, it's my bandwidth. If you think about the computer, right? Let's say today you have this awesome computer, you run it off what you run it off. But let's say you went and try to take the same computer and run it on dial-up. The odds of your computer performing as good are probably not as good, right? Because back then we didn't have the bandwidth to actually run these types of things. Now, in this day and age, bandwidth is important. And I loved what Melinda talked about when she talked about her strengths, right? And she's up in her head. That's not me. I'm out here I'm flowing, right? My positivity is moving and shaking. So when I do my vision board, I feel it. It's something I want to take action with. It's something that I want to do. It's something that I want to experience. So when you look at capacity, I want you to think in terms of output. Okay. So think of it right now. Now, your vision board is meant to drive creativity. It's meant to drive inspiration. Like it's meant to drive to a point where you're bringing these together and then you're inspired to take this action, to do this thing, to make that call, to talk to that person. But if we don't have the capacity to do that, what action can we take? Now we see this in the corporate environment. So just statistics, just so you guys know, right now, what Gallup has identified is that that are what they call well-being. Well-being impacts your engagement or your ability to engage, not just by a little bit, but they talk about how your well-being can actually, your well-being or capacity impacts your engagement by 4 times, meaning those people that are focusing on their mental well-being, their emotional well-being, and their physical well-being are 4 times more engaged in the role that they're playing in work. Now, we see this anywhere. You can see this in your private life, your personal life, your business, your organization, the things that you're doing. So really, the question we should ask ourselves is, do we even have the capacity to put out more into the world? So as we're using our vision board, right, we're starting to create these. We're putting houses or dresses or cars or boyfriends or whatever we're putting on there, right? We want to manifest. We want to bring these things to us. But if we don't have the output, if we don't have the bandwidth to really go out there, we're going to struggle. And so I want you guys to really think about this, really like put pen to paper, okay? I want you to ask yourself, when it comes time to the way you think, because our strengths, we know this, right? As something that we talk about, whenever you're going to meet with anybody, when we talk about strengths, your strengths influence the way you naturally think, feel, and behave. So if we focus first, right, on, let's say, in terms of the way we think, do I have the capability of thinking great things? Yes, of course. Do I have the skills? Yes, I've read some great books. But do I really have the capacity, or am I so overwhelmed mentally that the idea of dream building or the idea of attracting or the idea of manifesting, like, can I actually do it? Do I even really have it? So on a scale of 1 to 10, write it down. Write down your number. Are you at a 1? Are you at a 3? Are you at a 4? One of the greatest things I've learned about this is when it comes down to accountability seeks truth. Don't be afraid of truth. When accountability, right? When we have a job, either we're clocking in or we're clocking in, either clocking in on time or we're clocking in late. If we're clocking in late every day, all we have an opportunity to look at it as truth, right? So in this case, when it comes time to this number, what's true? When you think about yourself, you wake up tomorrow, do you have the mental space to actually, right, accomplish what you want to do or start to manifest what you want to manifest? Second thing, right, is the way we feel. So when people say all the time, you know what, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I just can't do that. I feel like I'm just not there. I'm not emotionally available. These are all things, right, that when I start to identify this, and then when we look to say, ooh, I want to engage in my business, or I want to engage in my vision board, I want to engage in my career, I want to engage in my job. But if you don't actually have the emotional capacity or the bandwidth to do it, it's just not going to happen. So on a scale of 1 to 10, now I was in a trainer meeting. I had over 90 managers where I did this capacity test with them. We talked about your emotional capacity, your mental capacity, and physical capacity. Now, most people will say, you know what, I don't have the energy. But believe it or not, over 80 people in that room, the number one thing that they said they didn't have was the emotional capacity to face the next day. That was where they were all struggling from an emotional perspective. And it's a lot of these are, when we boil it down, I really get into them and I'm really just talking to them and they're being vulnerable to get to this space. And I would say about 70% of them, 65% of them are men. So for them to admit that, right, that's where their emotion, that's big. That's in a corporate environment, in a workspace environment, that was a big awareness for all of them. Now, number 3 is going to be your physical capacity. Okay. What can you physically? So part of my experience with my vision board, I put a lot of energy to it. I play this song that I play with it. I dance in front of it, right? I'm talking. I bring all kinds of energy to my vision board. I love it. But if I don't got it that Monday morning, vision board, schmision board, right? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to stare at it. I'm done. I'm done. And so when we look at these things, as we're looking at things like vision board that are meant to create creativity, they're meant to create inspiration. If we don't have the emotional, mental, and physical capacity to engage in inspiration or manifestation, what Melinda was talking about, we're not going to create what we want, right? We're not going to give it really that energy to create what we want. So you need to start to identify, right, support. You need to start to identify resources. Now, many of you hopefully are either involved or connected in doTERRA some way. We got an oil for that, right? That's the beauty of it. When it comes time to emotional, right, energy, we got an oil for that. When it comes time to mental, I'm a absolutely firm believer, right, in putting a balance on the bottoms of my feet before I go out, before I do the things that I need to do. I love it. I love putting my oil routine is probably one thing I'm very proud of because of how I've identified some of these things. Sleep, oh my gosh, I am the sleep serenity man. I play my CD. I put my shaping. I got things going. I put my diffuser on. I put vetiver. I put I'm taking the serenity stick, rubbing on my chest. I do the whole nine because I know that I need this in order to maximize my capacity. So when you look at these things, identify the fact that if you really want to create, okay, again, vision board is all about creating. It's about manifesting, bringing close to you. But if you don't have the mental, emotional, and physical energy to actually manifest or create what you want, uh, you're asking for a lot, right? You're asking for this home run with nothing in the tank. And that's just unfair. Now, one of the things that Gallup has identified, this was one of the a study that they did that involved over 150 countries and over 98% of the population. Is probably the most in-depth study that's ever been done when it comes time to emotional well-being, that sort of thing. Now, what they've identified, these are the kind of the five elements that kind of connect together to create what we're going to look at in terms of what we can identify in terms of well-being. Is purpose, number one, purpose, liking what you do each day and being motivated to achieve your goals. So when you put something on your vision board, is it something you actually want to be doing, right? So meaning, like if you put this mansion on that vision board, do you want to mow that lawn, right? Do you want to clean those floors? Do you want to do that stuff? Or when you look at that, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming. I don't want anything to do with that, what Melinda was talking about, her individual strengths. I got achiever, in the mid-teens. I think it's like 19 for me. I got a lot of these I guess my significance, all of my self, all that stuff is just kind of in the mid to lower range. So for me, what motivates me, I got my woo, I got my positivity, I have my includer. My vision board literally has pictures of people. I got huddles of people, right? We're gathering around, high five and stuff like that. That's what drives me. My purpose is people. My purpose is to celebrate with people. So I don't have a financial number on my goal or a rank on my goal on my vision board. That doesn't drive me. But a group of people that hit certain ranks or hit certain numbers, I'm in it, right? That drives me, that excites me. So that provides me with purpose. I don't just like it, I love it. So when you're putting things on your vision board, do you connect with it? Does it drive you? Does it motivate? Does it inspire you, right? Social, having supportive relationships and love and love in your life. I was talking to so I was doing a pre-interview with, so for some of you that follow our YouTube channel, we are doing interviews with different people that are successful in doTERRA, that are hitting different ranks and driving different success. And I had a pre-interview with Melody Watts, and one of the greatest, probably this was more unique to her than any other pre-interview I did, how much she talked about her husband and how much they've done together, how much they've created together. And I love that about when it comes time to social, right? Having supportive relationships, having love in your life. Are you connecting with the other people that you have in your life? Are you connecting with social environments? Are you connecting with your, if you have a spouse? Are you connecting with specific people that if you're doing your business together? Are you connecting with your family if you can see yourself as a family doing some of these activities and some of these things together? This is a big part of what drives us, what motivates us, what helps our well-being. Okay, financial, managing your economic life and reducing stress, increase security. This is big. You got to have this something when it comes time to your, what are you creating financially? So even though I don't have a rank or I don't have a money goal, there is definitely on my vision board having people reaching certain ranks or certain things that impact my financial goal. So there is that focus on that for me because that drives me. Other people reaching certain things definitely drives and motivates me. So I have to have something like that on my vision board. Community, liking where you live, feeling safe, having pride in your community, right? So when you think about that home, when you think about that location, when you think about what part of the country, when you think about maybe a different country, I know, talking to different people, how much they've loved maybe living in different parts of the world. That was their, oh, this is my favorite place or my favorite environment because of this, because of this, because of this, because of the weather, because of the, I don't know, the rain, right? Because of the snow, because of the mountains, because of the valleys. So as you think about all of that, start putting those types of things into your vision board because all of this is what's going to drive more and more of your emotional well-being, your mental well-being to help you create exactly what you want. Physical, oh man, this is a big one, right? As we are involved in, again, hopefully almost all of us, I'm sure all of us are connected to doTERRA in some way, shape, or form. When we look at physical and having good health, it's a big reason why we talk so much about longevity and how important this is for us to create not just the life we want today, right? At the age that we are, the energy we have, but what about 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road? What do we want to be experienced from that? How important that is. Now, what's crazy in the same study that Gallup did to get all this data and all this information to identify that these are the 5 pillars or 5 elements of really kind of creating what we call overall well-being. Only 7% of that same population are actually focused on all 5 of them. 66% are focused maybe on one, meaning people have money goals on their vision board. People might have a purpose on their vision board, but only 7% are actually focused on all of them or incorporating all of them. And so you can see, like, with so many people in the world struggling emotionally, mentally, with all the different things that are going on physically, there isn't enough focus on, right, bringing together everything that we would call well-being to improve capacity, to improve our mental state, to improve all these different things. So really highlighting all of these within that vision board and identifying, because all of these things really identify with your strengths. This is, and I love it what Melinda said. What we're talking about here is Gallup principles, Gallup fundamentals for you to raise your level of engagement, for you to raise your level of creativity, for you to bring the best version of yourself, regardless of your strengths. By focusing on this, you give your strengths really permission to come alive. Go ahead, Melinda.
I love that. And yeah, and I think one of the reasons why my previous vision boards failed and why they are much more effective now is because I used to put my wants on there, and many of those were physical things, right? Here's the house, here's the car, here's the vacation, right? We put these dreams, and they tend to be a lot of material things. But really, if we can shift those to those 5 areas of well-being, we are actually becoming the person that can have that house and have that car and have that vacation, right? So I really, really love that. So this is the next level, right? That first one was focusing on well-being capacity, which is all about us, right? What do we need to grow and expand? And this is more now looking at your business, right? So having some business elements on your vision board. And these are the 4 needs of followership, again, identified by Gallup. And it's funny because a lot of times people talk about what makes a great leader. And Gallup likes to flip things on their head, right? Like everyone's looking at weaknesses, so we're going to look at strengths. Everyone's looking at leadership, we're going to look at followership, right? So, what do your people need from you? What are they looking for you to provide? This is the leaders you have on your team. This is your customers you have in your organization. And so it's both for business building and for customer building. Trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And this is one of those exercises I absolutely love to do with people when we pull up their strengths and we go, how do your strengths create trust? And we have a discussion about that. How do your strengths create compassion? And we have a discussion about that. How do you create stability with who you are and how you present to the world? How do you create hope for people? And we do that with our strengths, right? We look at our strengths so that when we do these things, it's natural and easy, right? That's the gift that our strengths give us. It gives us a path forward that is full of ease because it's the natural state of who we are. And so have a few of these key elements on your vision board. How are you going to create these things? It may be that you are going to do team retreats. It may be that you have continuing education courses once a week or once a month. It could be that whenever a leader comes to you and has an issue.
Oh, Jesus!
Darren Watkins,
It's
let's
good! God is great!
probably need to kick them out. Do you know how to do that, Philip? Someone got the link. I think we need, oh, they left. Let's see if they come back. We got bombed. We got Zoom bombed. Anyway, that's pretty funny because my son actually watches that YouTuber online quite a bit. It's funny. So anyway, have some things on your vision board that talk about the team culture you're creating. How are you creating these 4 elements for the people around you? Because if you do, you're going to get that attraction that the vision board always talks about, right? People will be attracted to this, and the engagement and retention, right? These are the key elements to attracting people and keeping those people on board with you because you are providing these things for them and creating a culture. I did want to just randomly share a funny story about one of the vision boards I did. The last vision board I did in California, right? I fully intended to stay in California, had no intentions of moving anywhere. And on my vision board, I wanted something to symbolize people coming to hear me speak. And so I was just flipping through things and found this image of an invitation to this theater in London, the Troxy. And I just liked it because it was really Art Deco and pretty. And it was just a symbol, right? It was just this beautiful invitation to invite people. And there was a stage in it. And that's what I envisioned, right? So I put that on my vision board just as an example of something I wanted to do. And it was probably maybe 9 months later that I found out I was moving to London, right? So it wasn't even in the world that I was dreaming of. All of a sudden I was living in London. And it's probably 3 years after I lived in England, I was asked to be a speaker for Strengths for a doTERRA leadership event. And they sent me the invitation, and I kept looking at the invitation and I was like, why does this sound so familiar? And I pulled up the image online. I Googled it, and it was the Troxy. It was literally the Troxy Theater, and I was going to be on that stage in front of hundreds of people talking about strengths. And so I know connectedness is really low for me. I had my connectedness moment. It happened on my vision board, right? Like in a totally unexpected way that I couldn't have even imagined happened to me. It actually did. I just wanted to bring that up. All right, let's move to the next slide. All right, so this is when we start to, we're getting near the end. We're getting we've cut out some things, we've cut out some phrases, we're starting to piece them on the board, and we're starting to think, is this going in the right direction, right? So these are the non-negotiables. These are the things I want you to see on your vision board. What must happen, right? If it is the end of your life, right? What are those things where you're like, these had to have happened? These are the things that I need. These are the things that I am willing to fight for, that It's not just I want it, right? Like the big house, yeah, that seems really fun, but I don't need it, right? That doesn't have to happen for me. But what does happen have to happen for me, right? So start thinking about some of those deeper things that you really want, that are tied to your why, that are tied to your purpose. What do you need? Right? Like for me, that has shifted drastically in the last few years of my life, right? Like my needs are very, very different. And before I used to do doTERRA for fun, right? I enjoyed sharing oils with people. I enjoyed watching their lives improve. I enjoyed the paychecks because I got to buy pretty shoes and go on vacation with it. Now it needs to pay my bills, right? Like it is a need. Like my vision board has a map of my future and it's a little more aggressive than it was before, right? I have a financial need now. What is your legacy, right? Think about what you are creating. For me, I really want to, for me, I think it's about hope. My legacy is I want people to feel like they had hope to improve their lives, that they were in a position to move the needle and feel better. And with my strengths work, the legacy I want is I want to know I helped people love themselves. That's what I really want. That's the legacy I want to leave for people is that because they interacted with me, they loved themselves more. Right. So, what symbol of that should go on my vision board? Because that's really important to me. That's who I am. That's why I get out of bed every day. So, there needs to be something on that vision board that shows that legacy you are creating. This is who I am. This is my purpose. This is what I am doing. There might be programs, there might be systems, there might be promotions that help me get there, but that's not my legacy, right? Those are tools that are going to get me there, but what am I actually doing? That needs to be on there. And then this last one, what will you fight for, even if everything is against you? Just an example of that, right? I just moved to Utah and everyone kept saying, have fun growing doTERRA in Utah. And I have felt that a little, right? There's challenges living in the most saturated state, the most saturated place on the world for doTERRA. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it right here and I'm going to do it locally. And everyone's going to watch me do it. And they're going to be like, what on earth? She is rank advancing in Utah County, right? Because I will fight against everything to make it happen. That's how passionate I am about it. So that is, thanks, Tanya, in the chat. You're right. You need to have something on the board that gets you that fired up, right? I don't care if everyone tells me no, I'm going to make it a yes. And if your vision board doesn't make you feel that, you got to rip some of those pictures off and put something else on there, right? This should lead you to take action. It should help you prioritize. It helps you focus, right? And you should want it. That vision board should be like, yes, I'm fighting for that. All right, next slide. The next slide is you, yeah, Philip?
It is, it is. So, and I'm so glad that, what we ended, if listen to one of the things that I love about Melinda, and working with her, there's, you can tell when she gets fired up, right? When she gets heated up about things, you can hear in her voice, you can hear in her actions, and you can hear that. And then, so as we move into, really what this is you can hear that, right? We want to check our energy. This is the fire test. When it comes time to these things, are they actually driving you? Are they actually motivating you? Do they bring you to life? And I love what she said about, when it comes time to taking things off. So I went to a training. This was my first training. I think it was in 2018. And this training that I went to was dedicated actually to teaching people how to make vision boards and write declarations. Really, teaching people how to anchor, what Melinda talks about in her book is utilizing different techniques in order to anchor to the things that you want. One of the great things about vision board, just like our strengths identify inside of us what naturally drives us, what motivates us, what gets us roaring, right? My positivity, right? That sort of my woo, those things, they're alive in me. And the more and more I study them, I learn what those are. Now, the moment I create a vision board, it's literally it's a visual presentation of that. Does that make sense? Like when someone sees me and they're looking at my strengths and I'm talking, when someone looks at my vision board, they're like, yeah, that's you, right? That's you. That's you want everything inside of you, right? That's one of the reasons why capacity is so important. It's one of the reasons why, going back to manifestation, why you want to get focused, why you want to create awareness, you want to get very clear inside of you. What is it that you actually, what is it that you're striving for? What do you want versus need, right? Versus, oh, I need this right now, so I'm gonna put that on the vision board. But what do you truly want? What do you want to do? So when it comes time to your fire test, really check your energy with it. Does it bring you to life? Does it drive you? Does it want to make, I love what Melinda said, do you want to take action because of what's on there, right? So if you have people on there, you have a goal on there, you have a number on there, maybe you have a specific object. Are you driven towards that? Or is it something you got to look at and be like, you know what? I don't want that anymore. That's not really what I want. It's not. I remember when I first started vision boards, when I really got into them, I threw a lot of numbers up there and I threw a lot of specific things up there. But as I got more involved in those things, I just realized, you know what? The number doesn't matter to me. I'm not driven by the number. I don't wake up and be like, yeah, that number. But I'll tell you what, you throw some people on that board, man, you put some smiles on those people, you start seeing strengths and connecting the dots and moving them towards what they want. I'm in. I'm all in 100%. And so my vision board very much reflects what I want to do, what I want to spend time doing, what I want to engage in. So make sure if you wake up and you look at that thing and you feel your right, you feel you crash, your head sinks to one side, you're just leaning back. If it creates overwhelm, right? If you start to feel anxious, if you look at it and be like, oh my gosh, that's exhausting. I can't even, I'm like, then right? Are we dealing with two different things? We're identifying, right, motivation, or are we dealing with capacity? And we got to adjust some of these things, okay? Love it. Do you want to work? Do you actually want to work? Does it say do this? Does it say do that? Is it driving, or is it just driving all this emotion inside you and you're like this Tasmanian devil running around your vision board, so excited, you open up the door, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm done. Right? I shut the door and realized I don't really want to work today. Oh my gosh, that worked me up too much. I'm done. I'm exhausted. And so you have to be very careful with that. Vision boards have the ability, right? Because we do put a lot of wants on there. We do put mansions, right? We put these homes on there. We put these checks. We put these numbers. We put vacations. We put these things, and we want it so bad. But sometimes it just drains us more than it actually uplifts us. I remember a technique. Someone showed me a technique about vision boards where they said, what if you layered your vision board, and instead of necessarily putting the biggest goal in front, what if you layered maybe something in front of that and then layered something in front of that? So then you knew what was behind it. You almost created like a pathway to it, but you had to do this thing first to get to the next thing, to get to the next thing, right? So it was a pathway to create what you want in your vision board. And I thought that was a wonderful little tip. That was a great little technique. And I've done that with different things where I've layered, ultimate, I want this, but I know that as I get this, it'll lead me to that next thing. So that was really good for me. That was good for my brain, okay? Again, spur you into action. Drift, can you put a pen to paper in that moment and say, I know exactly what I got to do. I know exactly what I got to do. If you guys have ever listened or watched The Secret, right? Remember Jack Canfield's story that he put this thing out there, he's like, he wants this thing. And all of a sudden, this idea of the Inquirer popped in his mind. He's like, surely, right? If people in the Inquirer read my book. And so it was that idea, right? It spurs action. Sometimes we got to sit with it. Sometimes we just got to feel it before all of a sudden, a light bulb comes off, right? Are you inspired? Okay, this is, again, something that so many people miss is they disconnect. They put something on there that really is, again, creates more of a need, and sometimes even a frustration, and sometimes it can be too much. Sometimes you can I've seen vision boards where you look at it and be like, so wait, what do you really want? Because I've done vision board coaching, that sort of thing, and you don't really know. And so sometimes we got to remove some things until we get very clear. Maybe it's just a few things on there that really create the inspiration and starts to tell a story, right? We can start to show up. We can start to bring the best versions of ourselves. And this is, you guys, this is where strengths can really connect to these things. Going back to engagement, if you understand really your strengths, they drive inside of you all kinds of different things that you bring to the table, different needs that need to be fulfilled. They naturally, there's characteristics in there that influence the way you naturally think, feel, and behave. So when you're checking your energy and you're thinking about, does your strategic come to life, right? Does your futuristic come to life? What about your own positivity? What about your deliberative, where you're like, oh, okay, I know exactly what routine I got to be doing right each and every day to make this a reality? What about your restorative, right? For those of you that have restorative and you see something in your vision board, you're like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I got to solve to bring that to fruition. I'm in it. So all of these strengths that you guys have, take a deep dive into the definitions, into the characteristics, into what they do, because you're going to see them all start to come out and want to play. When they look at your vision board, they're going to want to come out and play. They're going to be inspired to show up. They're going to be inspired. And if you're not, there's something there, right? It's a capacity issue. You got enough in the tank to really go to work? Is it inspiring? Is what you have on there, is it more of a need versus a want, right? Is it more of something, gosh, I really have to have this or else, right? Kind of thing, versus, oh my gosh, I'm going to do, like Melinda said, I'm going to do what it takes to get this done, right? You're so driven inside. So really utilize this and utilize this on a consistent basis, because what's going on there is going to change. You're going to adjust, you're going to hit things, and you may need to be, you need to have the fire test maybe once every 2 weeks, right? Once a month on your vision board. If you're not feeling it anymore, what do we got to adjust to make it happen? Okay, Melinda.
Just in case you wanted to look into some more resources, if you were thinking about using this presentation for a team retreat or a Super Saturday, doTERRA actually does have quite a few resources for creating vision boards. I especially like to steal photos from the things that they do. So I am not I am not an activator, so I like to take what other people have done and then achieve with it. I do not like to start from scratch. So whenever there's somebody who's already done it, I definitely want to take advantage of that. And then also some links there to Gallup resources if you want to dive more into leadership and followership, or look into your well-being and see where you need to perhaps move that needle a little bit so that you can increase your capacity. So those are just some additional resources for you, and there's of course plenty more on doTERRA and Gallup if you want to dive deeper into that.
And like Melinda said before, our intention really isn't here to come in and vision boards they're vision boards, right? So many people teach about them. You could learn so much about different vision boards and different things. But one of the things when you look at your vision board and when it comes time to Gallup and your strengths, what you're trying to connect the dots is your engagement into that very thing you want. That is the most important thing, is that does it bring you to life? That's what our strengths do, is it brings out the best version of ourselves. So when you look at that as that vision board, is it amplifying that, right? Is it creating more of that? Do you feel that? I mean, do you feel your heart pump? Do you resonate with it, right? That's one of the reasons why. So I'll be totally honest. When I play my vision board, I have this song that I play by Patrick O'Hearn. It's called "So Flows the Current." It's just this music it's this music, but it's, there's no words or anything, but it makes me come alive as I'm looking at these things because of my positivity, right? My activator at number 3. It fuels me. It makes me, I love it. So when you're looking at and you're doing your vision board and you're creating these things, all these different things that we're bringing to you isn't necessarily to rechange where things lie on your vision board, but really to help you understand from a level of engagement, from a level of just going all in what you want. Your vision board is an extension of that, of your strengths, of what's going on inside you. And so you can use Gallup fundamentals, Gallup principles, Gallup framework to really kind of help you. Okay, if it's not working, where is my capacity, right? What do I got to do differently? What do I got to add more? And so for those of you guys that don't know, some of you guys may know, some of you guys may not. We want to encourage you guys to continue to follow us. We have a Facebook community where we're posting different things. Melinda did a great interview today where she posted today. I'm doing different interviews. We also post in there deeper dives. So into different themes. We take about 6 or 7 minutes to go through each theme and talk about different needs or what those themes bring. You guys can take a look at the QR code, follow us, come continue to connect with us. We have a newsletter that we send out every month. Our YouTube channel is called The Strength Studio. And so we're just looking to, just like what Melinda said about, in her vision board, a big part of her vision board is connecting people and their strengths, right? Helping them find who they are, fall in love with who they are. And I mean, I'm all about action. I'm all about if I can get you to do the thing that you want to do in your strengths, I'm all in it. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and Melinda, do you have anything to add before we end?
I just put in the chat the strengthstudio@gmail.com, which you can email and get 3 free downloads from us. And that gets you added to our newsletter. We don't have an official click this link and be added. So just email and randomly say, hey, add me to the newsletter. And we promise to be more professional very shortly in the future.
Yes, yes, we will. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to end this call. Thank you guys so much for joining. Look for the recording. Feel free to share it out for anybody that might find value in it. And then we'll go and stay on for those of you guys that have questions that want to ask questions about your strengths or anything else that we can answer for you. We'd love to connect with you. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for being live. Love you guys and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.